Paddock had a name. The structure pointed at it. The reporting was building around it. Yamaha had a different name entirely, and everything that came before it stopped mattering. So how does a story that looked this certain end up being completely wrong? And what does that tell you about how decisions actually get made inside a MotoGP manufacturer? And what does it tell you about Yamaha specifically when the announcement lands somewhere nobody in the paddock fully expected? This is where it gets interesting, because Yamaha didn't just announce a signing, they closed a conversation, and they closed it fast. Autosport reported today, exclusively, that Ai Ogura is now set to partner Jorge Martin in the factory Yamaha team for 2027. And that ended the story instantly. The 2024 Moto2 champion alongside the 2024 MotoGP champion. Both titles from the same year, both now on the same bike. This is not a placeholder decision. This is a statement about what Yamaha want to be when the new era starts. And the statement is clear. Youth, adaptability, long-term construction. Not experience, not the established name, not the rider the paddock was writing into the seat just days ago. This is why what Yamaha just did is more significant than a normal transfer announcement, because it doesn't just tell you who they signed, it tells you what they decided they needed. And those are two very different things. What does it mean when a manufacturer's actual decision and the paddock's expected decision are pointed in completely opposite directions? And this is where the previous narrative becomes the story itself. We know for a fact that the momentum around Toprak was real, the reporting was real, the structure appeared aligned, Pramac stability, development anchoring, Miller staying put. Every decision at the satellite level looked consistent with a factory lineup that had already found its direction. Multiple credible sources pointed at Razgatlioglu as the likely factory partner for Martin in the days before this announcement. Fox Sports Australia reported just 2 days ago that the move was likely. The paddock was processing it as the expected outcome, and then Yamaha went somewhere else entirely. I don't think that means the signals were wrong. I think it means Yamaha were making a decision while the paddock was still reading the previous one. That gap is where the real story lives. Not who got the seat, but what Yamaha decided they needed and how far ahead of the public conversation they were already moving. I'd say the market reads direction better than destination. The paddock was right that Yamaha were moving. It was wrong about where they were going, and that is a much more dangerous mistake, because every team in this paddock is now recalibrating what they thought they knew about Yamaha's thinking. How often does the right signal lead to the wrong conclusion? In MotoGP, more often than anyone wants to admit. But the story doesn't end there. Because this wasn't a rejection of Razgatlioglu in the way the paddock might frame it. He was never fully aligned. The Red Bull sponsorship conflict with Monster Energy, the same structural blocker that almost stopped Marquez joining factory Ducati, was always a problem with no confirmed resolution. His riding style, his development background, his entire frame of reference coming from superbike machinery, none of it was wrong, but none of it was exactly what Yamaha were building toward for a new regulatory era. And more importantly, Yamaha's timeline didn't wait for those questions to resolve. We've seen this before in MotoGP. The rider the paddock expects gets passed, while the manufacturer is already locked on someone else entirely. Let's not forget that Davide Brivio, the man who built the Ogura project at Trackhouse, said publicly as far back as mid-2025 that a factory team would come for him. He just didn't say which one. Now we know, and Yamaha knew long before. The paddock did. Brivio built the asset, watched the market speculate around it, said nothing publicly, and let Yamaha close the deal quietly. In a paddock where information leaks constantly, that kind of silence is its own kind of message. And more importantly, it worked. And oh yeah, I almost forgot to mention, Alex Rins is out, not extended, not retained, replaced. Everything the previous narrative said about silence being more revealing than statements has been confirmed by action. No offer came, no commitment was made, and now the lineup is complete without him. He wasn't told he was out, he was simply not told he was in. And in MotoGP, that is the same thing. The Paddock was debating Toprak versus Marini versus a Moto2 talent. Yamaha already knew it was Ogura. I don't think that timeline is accidental. I don't think Yamaha allowed the Toprak narrative to run without already knowing it wouldn't be Toprak. The announcement doesn't mark the decision. It marks the moment the decision becomes visible. And by the time it became visible to anyone outside, it was already too late to change the outcome. Ogura is signed. The door is closed. And everyone building plans around a different outcome is now starting over. How do you compete with a manufacturer that has already decided before you've even started guessing? There are two possible scenarios for what this lineup actually delivers, and they lead to completely different readings of what Yamaha just built. The first is that this is exactly the right move. Martin gives Yamaha proven championship credentials from day one, a rider who has already won the title under pressure, who knows what it takes to build a campaign around a bike that isn't immediately the fastest. Ogura gives them a young talent with no bad habits to unlearn, someone who can shape the 850 cubic centimeters era from its first moment and build the institutional knowledge that takes years to create. At the end of the day, Yamaha have been waiting for a genuine reset opportunity since Quartararo's title in 2021. They finally have one, and they used it to build something that looks less like a transition and more like a foundation. I don't think this lineup was assembled to be competitive in 2027. I think it was assembled to be dominant by 2029. And if the 850 cubic centimeters regulations produce the leveling effect that major rule changes tend to deliver, the window for a manufacturer to build something lasting opens exactly once. Yamaha just decided who they are building it with. The question is whether Ogura is ready for that wait before the window opens. On the other hand, the risk is real, and I highly doubt it goes unnoticed. Ogura has delivered top 5 finishes on a Trackhouse Aprilia. Impressive, but not yet evidence of the week-in, week-out pace that factory status demands. Martin arrives, having spent 2 injury-hit seasons at Aprilia on machinery that currently leads the championship. Yamaha's V4 does not close the gap overnight. The pressure lands on Martin to validate the project from race 1. The pressure lands on Ogura to prove the talent Yamaha are staking the entire 850 cubic centimeter era on. Both pressures are real. Neither has a guarantee. Yamaha made their decision. Now they have to live with it. And the Paddock has to catch up. Let us know in the comments below. And once you do that, make sure to click on the video appearing on your screen right now.